Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over a few items and we're going to start with this box that I thrifted. I think this is wood, but this orange stain I'm not a fan of, and so I'm going to be painting this. And because of this dark, especially inside, I wasn't sure if I might get some bleed through, so I'm just going to go ahead and just to be sure, paint this with Boss, and that's just a stain blocker. You could just paint it with a clear coat or a primer, but this is just what I have, so I'm going to paint this one coat of Boss, and I'm using the gray color. It doesn't really matter what color you use here. But once I get one coat of this and let it dry, then I'm going to paint 2 coats of the color Buttercream on this. But if you don't use Dixie Belle products, any off-white will work here. This is just the off-white that Dixie Belle has. So 2 coats of this, and then I let that dry. And then I mixed half tea rose and half apricot and got this pink color and just added just a little bit of white to lighten it. And now I'm using this stencil this is a screen stencil from Dixie Belle. And I'm just going to use this kind of stencil because I just want a detail but faint stencil on this. So I just use a stencil brush here and just kind of work it down into that. Now this type of stencil works a little bit different in that it's more of a screen, so you have to really work that paint down in there. But it somewhat sticks, so it makes a good crisp stencil. So I do that on both sides. And like I said, I just want this to be faint because I'm going to be stamping over the top of this. I just want to give this some extra character. And so I'm doing this on both sides. And then I thought I was recording when I stamped this I See Paris stamp on here. This is one from the set I See Paris. And I stamped this same image on both sides and let that dry. And now I'm just using some clear wax to seal this. So I'm going to seal this on the inside and out and on the bottom. And then this will be finished. And I've already, before I put the clear wax on this, I've already taken a sander and distressed this. And then that's all that I do to this box. And then the next item that I'm going to do is this letter caddy, I guess you call it. But I'm going to paint this also. And this was already gray. And it was kind of a flat gray, so someone must have painted it. But that's great with me because it gives me a good base color so that when I do my distressing, it'll be a good dark color to distress to. So I'm giving this 2 coats of this same pink that I mixed up. And then I'll let that dry. And then I'm going to use that same stamp that I used on the other box. And but I'm going to stamp 2 different images on both of these little pockets. And then once I get those stamped on, then I use my sander and distress this also. And then finish it off with clear wax. And then for the third item, I'm going to make over this mirror. And I'm going to give the mirror also 2 coats of the color buttercream, and then I'll be adding some stamps to this one also. So I just take the mirror out because it's easily removed, and then I'll give this 2 coats of the color buttercream. But I forgot to mention that first I give this 1 coat of the stain blocker also, because I was afraid this might bleed through. And then I did 2 coats of the color buttercream. And after I let that dry, I decided to use that same Dixie Belle rose stencil. And I didn't get footage of that, but I just put 1 rose there on the top. And I kind of think that was a mistake, because my plan was to go back over it with black and just kind of layer that stencil. But because I didn't put much of the pink on there, it kind of got lost, and I just wasn't happy with it. Most likely I'll end up going back over this and just painting it and just doing the black stencil. But I didn't have time to do that today, so I wanted to get this video out. So most likely that's what I'm going to do. And then I added a little bit of script stamp just on the bottom, just to add a little bit of character there. And then I put the mirror back in this, and this one was finished. And again, I'm not real happy with how this one turned out, so I will be making it over. So that was my last thrift flip. But now I'm going to be doing a Christmas decor item. So if you don't want to see Christmas this early, then feel free to shut the video off at this point. But I'm making a Christmas tree. So I'm starting with 2 paper towel holders. Now I know they make the cardboard Christmas cones, but there's 2 issues I have with those. One is I don't like to have to pay for those, but then also they're not very tall. So I wanted this one to be a little taller. So I just took 2 of these paper towel tubes, and I just cut a slit right down the middle. And then I kind of angled the top a little bit smaller than the bottom, if that makes sense. I didn't cut any away from the bottom, but I cut some away from the top. And it'll make sense as I glue it together. So I just glue it together at the bottom and don't overlap any more than I have to. And then I make my cone shape by overlapping the top however much I need to get that Christmas tree shape. Now, you don't have to worry about this being pretty at this point. The biggest thing is you want that bottom to be even because it needs to set up straight. So just make sure that you glue it together right at the bottom and keep that even. And then you're just going to kind of squeeze that top together and just kind of work it together and add glue here and there on the seams and make this into a cone shape. And it's not really hard. You just work with it a little bit because, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect at all. You just want a cone shape. And you want to add plenty of glue so that it doesn't come apart. Like I said, you could definitely start with that cardboard cone to make it easier. And you don't have to do yours as large as mine is going to be. But I don't know, you might need to because we're going to be making this with coffee filters. And if you go too small with your cone, I'm not sure that they would work really well. So it might be best to just go ahead and use the paper towel tubes. So like I said, I just glue that together and then I'm going to be using some coffee filters. So my coffee filters, I like to coffee stain. I don't like them to be just white. For one thing, if they're just white, and here I am working to make sure that it sets up straight. But like I said, with coffee filters, if you don't do any coffee staining on them, then I think it's more apparent that they are coffee filters. But also, I just like the primitive, more aged look. And although this is going to be Shabby Chic, Shabby Chic I feel like looks much better if it has some distressing. So, but now to make this set up good, then I'm going to use one side of a ribbon spool, and I just glue that and let it set right up in there, and it fits exactly with a lot of these. Now I know all of them wouldn't, but I noticed that a lot of mine would fit exactly in that when you use two tubes together like that. So, and then I just glue it in place, and then it'll set up better. And although I'm going to be adding a stand to this, I still felt like that bottom needed to be more secure. And here I am just adding a little more glue just to make sure that I have a good solid base. And although I don't use them very often, there are several projects that I use coffee filters on, so I don't like to have to wait on them to dry. So I usually coffee stain several and then let them dry, and then I just put them in a tote, and then they're ready to use on whatever project that I need them for. But I start with just one coffee filter at a time, and I kind of pinch that center, and then just kind of let the rest of it kind of skirt down, and then I just glue it to my base. And you don't want to glue all the way at the bottom. I would say go up maybe a couple or a few inches, and then the next one's going to be right beside that, and you're going to fill you're going to cover the whole area. And when you get to the next layer, then you're going to kind of try to go right in the middle of the others so that you don't have any open spaces. And if you do have a little bit showing, it's not a big deal because we're not going to stop at just the coffee filters. So just let that kind of angle down. You don't want it going straight out. You just want it to kind of angle down. And as you go up, you're going to give it just a little bit more space in between, if that makes sense, so that it doesn't flare out as bad, because you want it to start getting a lot skinnier at the top so that you keep that Christmas tree shape. And because the cone is really gradually smaller at the top, you want to make sure that you watch and keep the shape of your tree very obviously Christmas tree shaped, if that makes sense. So there's my first layer. And then you'll just kind of watch, and as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of filters. My friend stopped by today, and I think I told her maybe around 50, but I don't even know if I used 50. But just kind of watch, like I said, watch that you angle it down plenty, and just watch your shape, and you'll know what it needs. And if you glue it wrong, it's easy to just pull it off and re-glue it. So just kind of work with it, and like I said, watch that shape. And if your shape isn't perfect when you're finished, that's okay also, because I'm going to be trimming this one up with some scissors, so it's no big deal. And this particular one is going to have just a little bit of pink in it, because I had some coffee filters in my tote that I had added a little bit of pink food coloring in with, and it was just kind of faint, and I started not to use those, and I thought, well, this is Shabby Chic, and I'm using pink in this vignette anyway, so I just decided to go ahead and leave some of that pink in there. Now, you could use the coffee filters here that are already tan, but to me, they don't look natural enough. I like the variations in the coffee staining. So I'm not speeding this up because I want you to see that it really doesn't take that long to make one of these. So save those paper towel holders, because I think you can make several of these pretty quickly. Now, I'm going to be adding a couple of extra steps to this, but you could definitely just make your tree like this and let it just kind of sit on the table or wherever you're going to put it, and it would set up fine. And you could just let the coffee filters be your tree and not add anything else. But I like to add layers, as you know, and this one is going to get a little more character than just the coffee filters. And as you can see, I'm just kind of staggering those so that I don't have any open spaces. And even in doing that, I had a few spaces that needed filled in, but like I said, that I'm not stopping at this. So if you need to add more, you can always stuff another coffee filter in an open space. But I'm going to be adding some lace to mine. So any spaces that need filling, that can be where I put my lace. Now, I should have gotten a side angle of this to let you see how this is looking, because right now it looks like everything's kind of straight out, but it's not. I'm kind of letting it go downward, and like I said, you just, whatever you think is looking good on yours when you start putting these on, and even if you mess up your first one, you can always, you'll know more what not to do on the next one. And, you know, coffee filters are not very expensive at all. And so, and even if you have to redo it, you can most likely use your coffee filters over again. So, this is one that you can definitely kind of play with and not worry with wasting. Now, one thing that you could do with this tree, and I'm just now thinking of that actually, because I just kind of dreamed this one up the other day, and I didn't think then that I could have put some of my shimmery glitter on this, and that would have been pretty also, but I didn't do that. So, like I said, when you get this finished, you could always just take a paintbrush and just very lightly on the tips of these coffee filters, you could paint some Elmer's glue on them, and then just kind of lightly sprinkle some glitter, and I think that would be really pretty to add to this also. And maybe a pearl garland would be pretty on this. And I'm not going to put any kind of tree topper on this one, but definitely you could do that. So this could you could go on and on with this one. But now I think I'll speed it up a little, now that you see how easily and quickly it can come together, because I don't want you to bore with seeing all this. But just keep adding that until you finish it at the top, and it just, as you can see, it's starting to really take the shape of a tree. And like I said, I'll be adding, or I'll be cutting some of this to make it more of the shape that I want it. But even in speeding this up, you can tell that this is coming together really quickly. And I think start to finish on this one, it took me maybe about 30 minutes. And if I were making several of them, then obviously I could just do each step and speed the process up. And then for that top, I just took one and just kind of pinched it and glued that to the top. And then that made my Christmas tree. And now I'm ready to start trimming. And you just take the scissors and just kind of trim. And sometimes I did a little slit here and there and just kind of soften those edges and make it look less like a coffee filter. And at this point, if you decided you wanted it more skinnier at the top, you could cut more toward the top. You can just kind of do whatever you want with the shape here. And then once I got this the way I wanted it, then I started cutting some little pieces of a curtain panel. And no specific shape here, I'm just cutting little pieces. Because all I'm going to do is take these little pieces and add a dab of hot glue to them and just kind of stuff them back in any places that I feel like need something. And so I'm just kind of evenly distributing this lace. And like I said, that'll fill in any areas that need to be filled in, but it'll also add some more texture and more interest to this and give it more of a shabby chic look. It's that simple. Just stick you a little hot glue on the end of it and then stuff it back in. And just do that until you feel like you've got that evenly distributed. And then I'm just going to glue this to the top of this small candlestick. And you could use any candlestick at this point. But I just glued that right on the top so that this will be my tree base. And then that's all that I did. And like I said, you could add any other extra embellishments that you want, but I just wanted mine to be simple. And like I said, one of these items, the mirror, I'm probably going to make over again, but here are my finished items. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.